I have a 2018 Canyon Spectral AL, and it's been a great bike. And it is 4 years old now, and I have never changed the pivot bearings. And so I decided to do that. And unfortunately, with this bike, a lot of the pivot bearings are either sandwiched together and have flanged bearings like this one right here. And this, in this particular case, in between the bearings on either side, there is like a bushing in there that keeps you from accessing the inner lip. So it's hard to push out, it's hard to knock out. In this case, you can push that bushing down a little bit and access those. So in the case of, on the rear triangle, you can see they're actually sandwiched together in there, and you cannot get a screwdriver or a punch or anything in there to knock those out, and a standard drift is not going to work. And so I tried a couple of things. I tried a cheap, Chinese blind bearing puller with a hammer, and I actually ruined this one. You can see right there, it just could not get purchased on it. So I actually purchased a very nice blind bearing puller from Wheels Manufacturing. It's made for this application, and it did not work either. I didn't break it yet, but I could not pull a single bearing out of my bike. I even just tried it on a bearing that I just put in right here. And even though I greased it all up, before I installed it, it would not knock out. So I don't know, people have success with that Wheels Manufacturing blind bearing puller, maybe the bigger ones. These are pretty small, the 6801. So I had to get pretty aggressive in order to get, you can see here I've got the bearings pulled from these. And well, I didn't really pull them. I ended up having to cut them out with my Dremel tool, and I cut the inner race until I could pull the actual bearing balls out, and then of course the inner race just falls out, and then I was able to push out the other bearing on the other side, and then push out the outer race of the first bearing. So obviously that's very frustrating, and luckily, except for the bearings that belong to the rear triangle, right here and right here, up, the rest of them have been able to be pushed out with, like a standard hub press. I use the Rapid Racing Products press kit for those, and that works really well. And of course I can push them back, or I can press them back in with the same product. These ones right here were just impossible to remove, and I don't know any other way to get them out but then to cut out the inner race on one, pop out the bearings, and then I can push out the other side. Any other ideas are welcome. Great success. The inside of the other bearing, which will make it much easier to push out. At this point, it's really a matter of getting the right drift size, which this is, and choosing. This doesn't work right because this is the right drift combination, but because these are flanged, bearings, this actually isn't big enough to go around, so I have to use a different size. It doesn't really fit, which doesn't matter because who cares? All that matters is we're getting the bearing out without destroying part of the bike. Because I have the right size to push them back in. As long as I can get it out, that's all that matters. And there's that one. And it's not like it was seized in there or anything. I'm not sure why I'm having such poor success with the Wheels manufacturing blind bearing puller, but regardless, I have not been successful. So the final outer, I'm just using a socket 4. Oop, I want to push it. Yeah, I do want to push it that way. There's the outer. And success. Elegant? No. Effective? Yes. And the best part is I didn't hammer the bearing out, which I was really worried about doing in this vulnerable end piece of a long, skinny aluminum bar. So I don't know. I really don't understand, because I've heard good reviews about this. I'll have to keep trying, and I'm thinking about roughing up, the contact point to get some better friction, but it just slides right out. I hammer it a few times and it just pops out. So either way, I'll be able to press the new bearings in with no problem into this space, and then I'll be done.